Hello, this is topic 6-1 on parallelograms. So let's go ahead and start off with just some simple vocabulary. We have a quadrilateral, which is any closed figure formed by four segments intersecting at their endpoints. And so I have a quadrilateral. Anything that has four sides and four corners. Now a parallelogram, other options of this would be, of course, rectangles, or that. Those are all quadrilaterals. Now a parallelogram is one that's simple. The opposite sides are parallel. Okay. So any quadrilateral where my opposite sides are parallel. And then diagonal, if I draw my quadrilateral, is any line that cuts across the parallelogram. Go ahead and turn that light off. So, quadrilaterals, parallelogram, diagonal. So let's go ahead and talk about naming. We have a parallelogram that has four vertices. They are M, N, P, and Q, just the four corners. It would be named quadrilateral MNPQ. The opposite sides of this quadrilateral would be MN and PQ and NP and MQ. Basically, this side is opposite that, and this side is opposite that. The opposite angles are M and P, and N and Q. I want to go ahead and put lines over those. And little angle symbols over by these. Consecutive angles would be the angle M with angle N, M with N, angle M, and angle Q, M with Q, angle N, and angle P, angle P, and angle Q. So basically, this side, this side, this side, and this side make up my consecutive angles. Those are angles that are side by side. And the diagonals of this would be MP and NQ. And that's all there is for terminology. Let's go ahead and look at our next page. And now we have some properties. This is where we get to stuff that we can actually do with quadrilaterals. For parallelograms, the opposite sides are parallel. We're going to go ahead and mark those with arrows. This says that these two sides are parallel and these two sides are parallel. Opposite sides are congruent. So that means that this side is congruent to that side. And that side is congruent to that side. Opposite angles are congruent. That means that this angle is the same as that angle. And this angle is the same as that angle. I also know that because these are parallel lines, that this one right here would be congruent with this one. This small one would be congruent with that small one. This one would be congruent with this one. And this one would be congruent with that one. But I'm not going to mark that just because that would just get a little obsessive. It says that consecutive angles are supplementary. That means that these two angles would be 180, and those two angles would add up to 180. And then it says that diagonals bisect each other. That means that this diagonal is cut in half so that these two pieces are the same. And this diagonal is also cut in half so that these two pieces are the same. And these are all the properties of parallelograms. We're now going to start using some of these properties to answer some questions. First off, let's name this parallelogram. Well, it is parallelogram ABCD. Line AB would be parallel to line DC. Line DA would be congruent to line CB. Angle CDA would be congruent to angle ABC. And line DE would be congruent with line EB, because the diagonal is cut in half. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at example number 3. ABCD is a parallelogram. And angle A is x degrees, and angle B is 2x minus 3 degrees. Well, these are consecutive angles. That means that they are supplementary. So x plus 2x minus 3 must equal 180. So that means that 3x minus 3 must equal 180. If I add 3 to both sides, I get that 3x must equal 183. And when I divide by 3, I get that x must be 61. Once you know how to set up the problem, it's just a matter of simple algebra to solve it. Moving on to our next example. XYZW is a parallelogram. X, Y, Z, W. And it goes further to say that XZ is a diagonal and WY are a diagonal, and they intersect at A. Now we're told that XA is 3M, and ZA is 5M minus 4. Well, because I know that the diagonals are bisected, that means they must be equal. So 3m must equal 5m minus 4. Subtract 3m and add 4 to both sides. Gives me that 4 equals 2m. Divide both sides by 2 and I get that m must equal 2. Up here, all I did was combine 2 steps in one to get rid of the 3m and get rid of the 4 in one go. Save a little bit of room since we don't have a whole lot. Now for example number 5. I need to figure out what all these different ones are. Well, if this is 80, that means that x must also be 80. These two angles would be consecutive, so 180 minus 80 is just 100, so Z must be 100, which means that this is 100. And here I have a line, so this must be 180 altogether. Well, 180 minus 100 would just give me 80 for y. Over here, well, this angle and this angle are alternate interior, so that means that this must be 35 degrees. Z is opposite the 120, so it must also be 120. And then I need to figure out what this is. Well, this is consecutive angles, so that means that 180 must equal 120 plus 35 plus some unknown. So 180 must equal 155 plus some unknown. When I subtract 155, I get that x must be 25. And now for number 7, well, if this is 30, that means that x must also be 30. This is 70. This is 180 right here, so 180 minus 70 is 110, so z must be 110. Well, if this is 110, that means that this vertical angle must also be 110. And these three angles must add up to 180 because it's a triangle. So 110 plus 30 equals 140. And 180 minus 140 is just 40. So y must be 40 degrees. So we're using some of the rules of quadrilaterals. We're also using some of the rules of triangles because every quadrilateral can be broken down into triangles. Now for our last example, example number 8, we have this shape and we need to figure out what the different things are. I need to find A, B, C, and D. Well, let's start with our sides first. Well, A would be that part of the diagonal, which I know to be congruent with that part of the diagonal, so A must be 15. Opposite sides are congruent, so that means that 22 must equal 2C, so C must equal 11. And now I need to figure out what my angles are. Well, this says that ZWX, that's angle B. Well, this angle would be congruent to this angle, and this angle is 31 plus 18, which is 49, so B must be 49. And angle D, that would be WXY. WXY, that would be this one. Well, these two are supplementary, so 180 minus the 49 would give me 131, and so D must be 131. Now I know that these numbers don't seem to look right because this looks obtuse and that looks acute, but you have to go with what was told to you in the problem, and 31 plus 18 is in fact 49, so this should have been the acute angle and that should have been the obtuse. Picture just was not drawn correctly, and so you have to mathematically prove the different things rather than just guess. Good luck on your assignment and have a good day.